What's up, Internet? Brian, Colby, and Jeff here. It's been a while. We're going to do something a little new today. We've been kicking around with all the new Marvel stuff going on with Loki and the new shows that we thought about doing a 2021 MCU tier list where we basically go through the entire MCU, rate all of these things anywhere from S down to D, and then argue about why everyone is wrong and right and whatever.
We'll be arguing why you guys are wrong. So
yeah, so we're gonna start this one off today with basically throwing everything out there with where we think they are based on what we remember about them because we haven't gone back and rewatched them. Once we go through today, we're going to rewatch all of these items one by one over the however many weeks this pans out to be, and then we'll do sort of a special segment for each one of those movies or shows and see if we end up moving them around based on rewatching them.
Yeah, we're not gonna really like do a reaction or anything like that. We're not gonna watch them together just because the logistics involved with that. We all have lives and stuff, so we'll probably just watch them one a week and then get together on Monday nights and just kind of go over the discussion. But for this video, we just wanted to put our tier list together and just kind of, based on what we remember. I watch a lot of them, but some of them I have not seen in quite a while. So you guys ready to get to it? Jeff, you got anything to say before we kick it off?
No, not really, except that I watched Thor that I thought I'd seen when it came out about 2 weeks ago. I rewatched it.
Really?
Well, thought I was rewatching it and realized I had never seen the first Thor movie.
Well, do you want to go ahead and pull? You want to go ahead and pull yours up and get into yours right now? Kick us off.
Yeah, we can go ahead and pull it up.
Are you going to start in the S's or the D's?
The shit section, you mean?
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so I got yours up on the screen now. So walk us through this.
I'll probably start at the bottom. Captain Marvel, I just really wasn't impressed with the movie. I thought they could have done a way better job considering she's like basically the shit of, the superpowers. I mean, she's like Superman, it's just
that's why I don't like her. She's too powerful.
Yeah, and well, I don't know. I don't think they did a good job with it. But that's why I have her there. Then
Yeah,
Iron Man.
She suffered from not having a good villain for her movie.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't really. I don't think they ever talked about her much, like in any leading up to the movie. Like it wasn't like a big storyline. Like people who follow Marvel knew that there was a Captain Marvel, but besides that, you really didn't. I don't know. There wasn't really a lot of mention of her or anything. I don't think there was.
No, I agree with that. There wasn't a lot of buzz with her because everything that was a post Endgame world, so everybody was just talking about that. So, all right. So Captain Marvel sucks. Okay. What else you got in D tier?
Iron Man 3 was probably horrendous. I mean, I probably dislike that more than Captain Marvel.
If this scale had an F, that would be the only movie in it.
Yeah, it just
I don't know. I might have 2 in it, but yeah, I would definitely. Iron Man 3 would. I'll get into it when it's my turn, but
nah, I just didn't like it.
Yep.
Okay. C. You've got this pulled up to where people can see.
Yeah, it's on the screen. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go through each and every movie.
Sure.
I'll just pick out, 1 or 2. Ant-Man and Wasp, I really wasn't impressed with. I really like Paul Rudd as an actor. I love him as Ant-Man. That storyline in that movie just wasn't captivating to me to keep my attention. I found myself looking at, playing on my phone or whatever, like while I was watching it. So
the Ant-Man movies are good to have in the background, just to have something on.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because Paul Rudd's such a funny actor.
Yeah.
He is funny.
And he doesn't age,
immortal.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's immortal.
Let's go up to B. It's really shitty on my end.
Well, hold on. I've got a question actually about your C category. What the hell is Spider-Man doing down there?
Which Spider-Man is that one? I can't see it clearly.
That's Homecoming.
Yeah, that's his first one with Vulture.
Then yeah, that's definitely in the wrong spot. That one shouldn't be there. That should be an A, and the other Spider-Man that I have up on A should be where that's at.
Okay, flip flop.
Oh, okay.
So you got Far From Home in C and Homecoming in A. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it should have been. I don't think I could actually read the the thing when I chose those.
That one was hard to tell. So you don't like the one with Mysterio then?
No, I didn't care. I mean, I do. It just wasn't, great.
I should preface this, in my opinion anyway, none of these movies are unwatchable. They're all enjoyable. Right. Even the quote unquote bad ones are still enjoyable.
It's when you compare them to their company.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's definitely a movie that I would, enjoy watching. It's just wasn't great.
Besides for Iron Man 3, that one's bad.
Yeah, I'll never watch that.
Obviously, we're not talking about Iron Man 3 here. Come on. All right. So far I don't have too much to say about this as far as objections. I think you're pretty spot on.
And I want to touch on the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Volume 2.
You have that in your B.
As you can see, I've got the first Guardians up. That's one of my favorite Marvel movies, period. Me and Brian actually went to the movie theater and seen that when it released.
Yeah.
I don't have to even look at Brian's to know where that is on his in his tier list.
So, and that's
I rated
really
it first.
I know you did.
That's really what captivated me to really get into all the Marvel movies. Like, I know Iron Man and stuff had come out, and like I'd watch those, but I wasn't like, they hadn't pulled me in until I seen Guardians of the Galaxy, and then I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this is going to be awesome. They're going to, I can't wait till they get into space and all this shit. Well, when the second one came out, I was like, damn, I want it to be a lot better than it was, which I still liked it. That's why it's up in B. It just, since the original Guardians was my favorite, I was definitely pulling for, that one to be just as equally good. And it
I have a little bit of bias on that one too, because I feel like you can't help but compare it
Not
to
your
the first
turn.
Guardians. Yeah, that's true. I'll go into it on mine.
All right.
You're not wrong.
If you want to ask questions, that's fine. But yeah, like expand on your stuff.
Right, we'll go to Ant-Man. I loved Ant-Man. That's definitely one that I can watch over and over. I just love the storyline with Ant-Man, because I remember whenever I know nothing of comics. I just go off of all these movies. So when I heard that there was an Ant-Man movie coming out, I didn't know it was a comic book. I didn't know it was Marvel. I just heard the name.
You're like, what the hell is this shit?
And I remember telling my brother Brandon, I was like, dude, they're just coming out with movies for fucking anything.
Nice.
They're just making all kinds of shit up. And then I realized, the trailer finally came out, and I realized it was Marvel, and I was like, oh shit, Paul Rudd's in this. This might be badass.
This is gonna be an A-tier movie.
And it really impressed me too, because you think, if you're not thinking Marvel and you think Ant-Man, oh really? There's a guy that's strong and he shrinks. This is going to be fucking stupid.
Yeah,
but it was really good. Loki. We just watched that. I didn't get to talk about the last episode.
Yeah,
I don't think we did either.
We didn't either. We just had too much stuff going on. We probably should do a just overall Loki like season 1 discussion.
We'll do
a video on that.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. Same with WandaVision. Thor Ragnarok. How do you say? Is it Ragnarok?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a soft G. It's Ragnarok. Yeah.
Ragnarok.
It's like Hulk Ragnarok.
That could actually be up in the S category for me too, because it was that was definitely my favorite Thor movie.
I was on the fence with that one. I'll get into it when it's my turn. I was so close to I'll talk about
so
it.
that could be either or for me, because it's definitely one of my favorites out of all the movies. Civil War was great. It just wasn't as good as the other one, so I didn't feel like I could put it up at the top. And then the top list, all right. If y'all don't have all those up at the top, you're just wrong.
So okay. I'll get into what it means for my movie to be S tier, because I will spoil a little bit. I only have 3 movies in S tier, and I'll explain why later. But one of these doesn't quite have the same thing for me, and I'm curious if Brian can figure out which movie I'm talking about.
It's either the first Avengers or Iron Man.
Yeah, it's the first Avenger. Okay. That one. What was it about that one that made you put it in S tier?
Just for me, it was the kick. I felt like I couldn't put the other Avenger movies in there without putting that one, because it was like, it introduced all of them as one group.
It's sort of like a it's a prequel to the Avengers, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And
okay.
It wasn't the movie it was great, but it had everybody in it for the first time.
Without it, the other ones don't exist. Yeah.
Right.
It was a proof of concept. Like
Right.
that was when all of the movies they had been building up this universe with finally crossed over to prove that what they were doing wasn't a crazy idea and that it was a money-making machine.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, definitely good.
I do have a question for you, Jeff. So when you're ranking movies, what do you kind of think about? Like, is it rewatchability? Is it the action? Is it the story? Is it the
it's probably more
cinematography?
It's probably more the impact it had on me as I was watching it for the first time, to be honest with you. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, that's a very fond memory because that's one of the first movies I can remember we went to together. You know, it wasn't just me and you that went; it was a big group. But
yeah, it was.
You know, it just.
I think I might have been there.
It was the first time I went to a movie theater and God's honest truth, and people dressed up like in costumes.
I was one of them.
I was like, yeah, and I was like, this shit happens, like, you know. So it made an imprint on me.
Who
like,
are these fucking nerds?
Yeah, I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking back then. But then it was like, oh shit, I can get down with this. You know,
this is actually cool.
Badass.
Yeah, I think that was one of your first movie club movies you had come to when Julio was hosting those.
It was the first one, the very first one. But yeah, it definitely, because most of these I watch with my kids and stuff, and you know, and they really enjoy it. So you know, I guess it means a little more. You know, when I think back of the first time watching them and seeing my kids' reactions to them. But I still enjoy.
Yeah, I feel you on that because Cameron loves a couple of ones that I could like take or leave, but they've grown on me because of him, which is cool. All right, well, I don't really have too much to complain about here. This is a solid list. Brian, you got any questions before we move on to your your list?
No, really, the only one of these that I kind of disagree with is Spider-Man Far From Home being so low.
Okay. All right. Well, here, do you want to go ahead and flip over to yours then?
I can.
All right. So I have yours up on the screen now. Your A tier had more in it, so it's a little bit taller than the other ones, but
yeah, let me bring my own list up so I can see it. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the list too. So, and before I go into these, the way I look at movies isn't always from a movie quality per se. Like that is a big factor. If a movie's trash, it's trash. But like a movie being rewatchable and still entertaining, no matter how many times I watch it, is very important to me. Right. And you could have a movie that's a masterpiece, but it's only fun to watch once.
Right.
And for me, that's a good movie, but not necessarily an S because I have no interest in watching it again. But anyways,
I like how we all have our own different interpretations of what the different tiers mean. That's what makes this whole thing so cool. Is like there's no right or wrong answer for these. You know, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like completely off topic for MCU, but the Transformers movies, like they're not good movies, but I can watch them and have fun every single time. So I will always call them a good movie because I have fun every time.
It's fair.
Especially the first one. I love the first.
First one's excellent. The other ones suck, but they're still great to watch. That's the difference. They're all entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, definitely Iron Man 3, like I think all agreed on, that is the worst item out of the entire bunch and deserves its own category as an F. Mainly because the Mandarin was a lie. Like Colby, you and I have talked about this many times, and I think you said it best that whoever made the trailer for that movie deserves an Oscar.
A fucking Oscar,
or an Academy Award, like whatever award you want to throw at him, that guy he's the only reason why people even showed up to watch that movie, because if they knew what they were watching beforehand, they would not have gone.
That the trailer is for a different film. It's like Rogue One. The Rogue One trailer is for a different movie than what we got. Still enjoyable, but just not the same film. Keep talking. I'm here. Gotta take care of some family stuff here.
I see that. But yeah, Iron Man 3 sucked. Thor Dark World was also just not. I don't know that it's a bad movie, but it's of a different caliber than everything else in the MCU. It
Yeah.
is pretty low.
I
And,
agree.
and it's funny how bad it is because scenes and moments from that movie keep popping up in all the later phases.
Marvel really
There's a
wants
lot of-
us to realize how important that movie was, you know?
Yeah. Like there's a lot of important things that happen in that movie, but they are not important in the context of the movie.
Okay.
I also thought Iron Man 2 really wasn't that great.
Yeah, I think I had them higher. It wasn't that good, but it was still good. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't. I did. Only reason I didn't put it down at the very bottom is because I couldn't compare that one to
a
Iron
D tier.
Man 3.
A D tier MCU movie is still more entertaining than probably 90% of the movies out there. You know,
It is, but for me, for the D category, those are movies that have zero rewatch value for me. Like I have zero.
Like you could almost
them.
skip them and it wouldn't really matter that much. The Iron Man sequels don't really do much. You know.
Yeah. And everything important in Thor Dark World you get in flashbacks
anyway.
at other movies. So for the C category, I was really torn on Incredible Hulk. I actually am a big fan of Edward Norton. I think he's an awesome actor, and I actually did think he was really good at this role. And I love that movie. It's very rewatchable. It is not a good movie, but it is a good Hulk movie. It's just also not of the same caliber as everything else we got in Marvel. So I kind of threw it down at the bottom.
It's a pretty solid Hulk movie, but not an MCU movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's totally disconnected, you know?
Yeah, it really is. But we did get some important characters out of it, and it is rewatchable. I can watch that movie and have fun. Thor, you know, I'm not even going to get into that one. Black Widow, we probably need to all have a dedicated discussion to that, but really the disappointing thing in that was really the villain.
No spoilers because Jeff hasn't
I
seen
haven't
it.
watched it.
Yeah. Okay.
Who cares about the people watching at home? We can spoil them all we want, but not Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
And I haven't watched the Hulk either, by the way. I watched the one with what's his face in it.
Oh yeah, the old one from like 2003. Yeah. That one's hard to watch.
So probably I'm going to guess one of the most debatable ones on my list is Winter Soldier being a B.
Yeah, dude, what the hell do you have to say for yourself? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, that is surprising.
It's not a rewatchable movie.
All right, let's move on to your A tier. What do you got in A?
You really don't want to talk about that beyond that?
Nope, because you're dead wrong. But go ahead. If you want to expand on it, that's fine. It's your turn. I'm just messing with you.
This is an example of this movie has amazing cinematography. The story's great. The acting is great. Everything about it is great. But it's a very slow kind of espionage.
Political thriller, sure.
Yeah, it is. Because of that, it's just slower paced than a lot of these movies, which makes it hard for me to just kind of put on randomly and decide I'm going to watch it. Whereas most of the other movies on this list, even some of the ones under it, are actually more rewatchable to me because I don't have to pay attention completely to it. It's a much more involved movie.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely cannot be on your tablet during that movie, you know?
Yeah. And then, so in my A list, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, what I was going to agree with you on, Jeff, is I think because that is a sequel and because Guardians of the Galaxy, in my opinion, is the best MCU movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever. But whenever you compare it to the first Guardians, it's not an S-list movie.
Right.
I think if you didn't have the original Guardians to compare it against, I think it's actually a better movie, but you can't help but grade it against the movie that came before it, and the movie before it is just a better movie. Not to say there's anything wrong with this one, but
no, it definitely wasn't a shit movie. It wasn't bad by any means. It just it didn't live up to the expectations to me, and I don't think it could have, even if it was, you know, like you said, it could be better than that one. It's just not to me.
And then also it lost a lot of points for me when they changed the lore of his dad. So like Ego should not be his dad. Ego should be his own thing. And while Kurt Russell was awesome and the idea of Ego like was pulled off very well, it just if you had made him Spartax, it would have just made much more sense.
I definitely agree with your rating on that. You can't put those two movies in the same tier. They're not. They're both very good. They're not in the same tier.
Yeah. Loki was really good. I'm looking forward to more. I've rewatched that last episode 4 times now.
Yeah.
Trying to find what everyone else sees in it. I still am not a big fan of that last episode, but we'll save that for our review. Falcon and Winter Soldier was really good. I honestly couldn't tell you why I put this in A over S, other than my gut just told me it was an A.
I agree.
WandaVision could have been an S, but I still feel like it started off too slow. In that the first 2 episodes I feel like could have been 1 episode. It could have been shortened, and I would have been happier with it.
Can I just say, for the series categories, those are definitely top tier. Like, for
to pull off what they did for 3 TV series in a row like that is incredible.
Yeah.
Nothing else worth commenting on A for me. Guardians of the Galaxy, like I said earlier, best Marvel movie in my opinion. That is an all-star cast, amazing direction. The visuals are awesome. The costumes are awesome. The comedy is there. The action is there. The sense of mystery is there. Just, you couldn't do anything to improve that movie other than find a way to make it an hour longer of more new stuff, because there's not a single wasted moment in that movie. Iron Man 1 I had to throw at the top just because it started everything, really. Like, I know the Incredible Hulk, I think did Incredible Hulk come out first?
No, came out after Iron Man. It
came out immediately after, because Iron Man's in the post-credit scene of that.
Yep, and then Iron Man 2 is after that.
But I feel like even with that said, Iron Man is really the foundation of everything else on the screen, and you couldn't have it without it. And Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. There will never be another Iron Man.
I thought about just putting Kevin Feige's face in S tier and just leaving the whole thing blank and just be like, here's my list, just thinking everything to him,
Yeah. And then Black Panther I want to talk about a little bit, because that movie, first of all, it's amazing, but it has probably the best original score.
Damn it,
out of
Brian.
Everything on the screen.
I was going to fucking say that.
And actually, Guardians has the best soundtrack, but this has the best score.
Dude, the Guardians 2 soundtrack is underrated too.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think most of the ones I have in the S list are hard to argue
against. And to think that a Scandinavian white guy is the one that made the music for Black Panther is awesome. Like, just the idea of that, it's just such a cool thing.
Yeah. And Colby, I know you know this, but Jeff, I don't know if you did. So the Black Panther composer is the same guy that did the music for Mandalorian.
Yep.
Oh wow. Okay.
And once you hear both songs next to each other, you're like, okay, that's definitely the same dude. You
said that, yeah. And I didn't even touch on Black Panther. I had that at A, and that was another one that could have gone either way. Could have went S, could have went, because it was definitely groundbreaking. I felt like it was groundbreaking the way that they presented Black Panther.
Yeah,
because I knew nothing of Black Panther before the movie come out.
The only thing in my A tier that was really, really close to being an S, and I ended up moving it, was Loki.
Gotcha. Wow.
Wow.
Ka-chow.
All right, Brian, you good before we move on?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
No arguments from you guys on any of my choices?
I'm not going to argue with y'all about any of these. I mean, I'm not Colby.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I've got mine up on the screen now. So if you want to pull mine up on your end, I just want to go ahead and preface my list with, like, to me, this is just personally, like, S tier should be something like truly special, and I'm not saying that your S tiers aren't, but for me, like, I would have put all these movies in the same tier, and then I just had 3 of them that were just slightly elevated above the others. And it just happens that they were all 3 directed by the Russo brothers. They've done 4 total. You'll see I've got Winter Soldier in my A tier. So I really do love the Russo brothers films. Let's start at the bottom like you guys did. So Incredible Hulk is the worst one in the series. Totally skippable. Horrible CGI, laughable CGI, but it's still one of those movies that's enjoyable to watch. The fight scenes the action's great. I don't buy Edward Norton as a scientist. I love him as an actor, but I did not buy him as a scientist. I know, Brian, you said you really did. Fine.
I thought he had good chemistry with the rest of the cast. He wasn't as serious as Bruce Banner normally is, though.
Yeah. I don't love it when they do casting changes. I definitely think Mark Ruffalo is the best, the better choice of those.
Well,
two.
Even Edward Norton's the second Hulk.
Yeah.
They just decided to throw that first movie completely out,
right.
Which I don't blame them. That was bad.
That was the only one I ever saw.
Yeah.
Because I was a huge Hulk, when I was a kid, the Incredible Hulk TV series, I was the Incredible Hulk. So when I was 3 and 4 years old, trying to pick up the couch and beds, and I thought I was so strong. And so I always grew up loving the Hulk. And then I watched that movie, I guess it was 2002, 2003. And I was like, this is trash. This is
so moving on from the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 3 is I will spend 30 minutes talking about this movie during our rewatch, so I don't want to go too much into it now. All I will say, this is not an MCU movie. This is a Shane Black movie that takes place in the MCU, and he fundamentally does not understand that Tony Stark is Iron Man. He's not Tony Stark anymore. He's fucking Iron Man. Right. And the movie sucks. Okay, it does, and I will expand on it later. Captain Marvel, I actually enjoyed. It made $1 billion. It's not a horrible movie. It's just not as good as the ones above it. That's all there is to it.
Superman syndrome. I feel like if that movie had a villain that was worthy of Captain Marvel fighting, it would have been much better
It doesn't
movie.
mean anything when they show the best moment in the trailer, her going Super Saiyan, going binary, and then just ripping through all the ships like it doesn't matter, nothing can hurt her. The stakes don't matter anymore,
Exactly.
And even and I know I have Endgame in my S tier, but even her scenes in Endgame, I was just like, meh, whatever.
It's almost like they kept her out of the storyline so long,
right, because they knew that. Yeah,
it's like she's just gonna fuck everybody up.
Exactly. once you play that card, it can't be unplayed.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that was always my biggest argument with Thanos. Is I feel like if Captain Marvel had been around longer, they could have had Thanos be more of his comic book power level.
Yeah,
and it would have made more sense.
Right.
Yeah. So, just again, just to reiterate, none of these movies are bad. I just the ones in D tier are not as good as the others. That's all there is to it. My C tier, I would consider these movies to all be good. I have problems with them, just like I do have some problems with my movies in B tier. But I just think the overall quality in B is slightly higher than C. I love the Ant-Man movies. I struggled with putting them in B tier, especially the first one. In fact, if I was doing it today, I probably would have the original Ant-Man in B tier. My problem with these movies is they suffer from a lot of the same things that D does for me. They're just not as good as the ones above it, and I didn't want to I didn't want to just saturate and put everything in A and B, or mostly A tier. Iron Man 2, I know a lot of people don't like that movie. They think it's kind of a waste. I actually really enjoyed it. I did like the casting change. I like Don Cheadle a lot more than I like Terrence Howard in that role.
Yep.
I love seeing War Machine. The villain is just sort of okay. They go through all this shit, and then the end, the fight scene is 20 seconds. And I get it. It's not always about the spectacle, but they had a huge build up for a fight that was like, you blink and you miss it. you know.
Yeah, I think the villain was actually why I rated it as low as I did. He just nothing against that actor. It's
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke, right? He just the accent that they gave him and his whole character just it doesn't work in that movie that late in where we are. If he was an earlier villain in the MCU timeline, it might have worked, but I think with where we were, he just wasn't good.
Well, yeah, it was the third movie though. So, I mean, third movie in the MCU, you know.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. I probably have Captain America: The First Avenger as the highest movie in this tier, because not all movies in the same tier are created equal, you know. I don't dislike this movie. I just think that once again the villain is kind of just forgettable. Red Skull is a classic Marvel villain, and Hugo Weaving does a great job, but all of the villains in Marvel Phase 1, with the exception of Loki, are just sort of there to get to the Avengers. They don't really do much, you know?
Right.
That's fair.
I don't know. I actually don't hate Thor: The Dark World either. I know it has its problems and it's kind of goofy with the like 9 realms, like, you know, overlapping each other and all that stuff. But I liked everything they did with Loki in this movie. Loki is the star of this movie. I know it's called Thor: The Dark World. This is really Loki's movie, in my opinion. And Malekith is just another one of those, you know, typical Phase 1, Phase 2 villains. He's just kind of there to move the plot along, but doesn't really do much.
Yeah, and it sucks for him because, you know, great actor. Eccleston is an amazing actor.
None of these performances are bad. I mean, I've said it before. I could not be an actor, you know, but I don't know. I just feel like of all the ones in this tier specifically, other than maybe Whiplash, maybe even Ghost, like they're all just sort of there, you know. They don't really do too much. It was really tough for me to I struggled with putting Age of Ultron above it, but that movie was just a disappointment for me, you know, after seeing how good the first Avengers film was. And let's not forget, Iron Man 3 came out directly after the first Avengers, then Thor: The Dark World. So you had one really amazing movie, then 2 very mediocre ones, borderline bad, and the MCU was not looking good. And then Winter Soldier and Guardians came out, and it was like, oh, they know what they're doing now. They're back on track, you know? And then Age of Ultron was kind of a disappointment for me. Joss Whedon just took the spectacle too high, you know, and it just didn't have it didn't really sing the same way that the original Avengers one did. I do like what Avengers Age of Ultron set up, though. I mean, we got Vision out of that. We sort of finally hear about the Infinity Stones, you know, Thor has that vision and all that stuff. So I like the idea of it. I just don't think it was really pulled off that well. Once again, I have Ant-Man between kind of B and C. Ant-Man and the Wasp is actually good. The villain just kind of forgettable. But again, very enjoyable movie. Paul Rudd's hilarious. He's a vampire and deserves all the praise he gets.
Yes.
B tier, I have the original Thor, and I know a lot of people don't love that movie, but in my opinion, that's one of the most underrated movies in the MCU. You look at it, if you watch it as a classic Silver Age comic book story where the guy has all his powers, loses them, and then has to like sacrifice himself to get his powers back, like that's what superheroes are all about, you know? And I really love that movie. Doctor Strange was another solid, you know, movie as well. Loved the visuals in that, the Inception shit with all the buildings folding in on themselves and stuff. That movie is just an absolute like mind fuck visually. And then the next one I think is Spider-Man: Homecoming. Spider-Man's my favorite character in Marvel Comics, not the MCU, but just Marvel Comics. Love Spider-Man. He's the glue that held Marvel Comics together in the 80s and 90s, and the X-Men.
I have a question. The Spider-Man, the multiverse with
Spider-Verse, yeah,
that's not part of Marvel. Like,
it's not part of the MCU.
Yeah, that's a Sony like direct property and stuff. It's not part of the MCU. Yeah, now
that's like
wait till Spider-Man 3 comes out.
It's like one of my favorite.
It's awesome. It's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, Spider-Man's my favorite character, just overall in Marvel Comics. I really think they finally nailed getting Peter Parker and Spider-Man right.
Yes.
Whereas in the Tobey Maguire, and you guys can, disagree with this obviously, but I thought Tobey was a great Peter Parker, but a horrible Spider-Man. And Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man and a horrible Peter Parker.
The thing that was wrong with Tobey Maguire, like he was really good.
Besides the fact that he's 30 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was. I want to say in the first movie he's in high school still, but he's 30.
Yeah. It's like, come on, bro. Yeah. But yeah, they finally nailed Spider-Man and Peter, and his entrance in Civil War is just incredible. Like perfectly timed, just enough of a little appetizer. Moving on to Guardians 2, we talked about
let me touch on that for a second. What's great about him as an actor too, he's like really athletic, like can do backflips. He
does a lot of his own stunts.
Yeah,
like, and he's so tiny, he's like a believable Spider-Man. Like, straight up.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about this earlier with Guardians 2. I don't think we need to go too much into it. Good, solid film, not as good as the first one. I watched the movie like 3 times and I still couldn't tell you what the movie was actually about because there's so much going on with the Sovereign always kind of randomly showing up, and then Spider-Man just, kite surfing through the galaxy with his dear old dad and stuff. And I'm just like, what is this movie about? And then I finally realized it's insert Dominic Toretto here. It's about family, all that stuff. Solid film, not as good as the first one.
Did you say family?
Yeah. Spider-Man Far From Home, same thing. I liked this one a little bit more than Homecoming, actually. I really did enjoy the Mysterio's character. I mean, I knew about the twist ahead of time, not because it was spoiled, but just because I know who Mysterio is. I enjoyed this movie. I don't love Zendaya as MJ, even though I know she's not Mary Jane. I don't really like her in general, but that's neither here nor there. I actually really enjoyed Black Widow.
Very pretty.
Yeah. I mean, she's not bad. It's just, I don't buy them as a couple. I don't buy their chemistry at all. That's just me. I can deal with it. Black Widow, I really enjoyed. The first 2/3 of that movie are really, really good. I was shocked at how good the family mechanic is in that movie. And Yelena Belova absolutely steals the show in that movie, in my opinion.
That's that who plays her sister?
That's the sister's character's name.
She
Florence Pugh is the actress. She's amazing, dude.
Yeah, she's hot.
When my wife
she's about this tall.
When my wife and I watched the movie, we were both commenting on how she stole the entire movie.
Like, I don't want to. Really I'm not going to spoil it, but the whole trope with the fighting pose, so good. Yeah. The last third of that movie is a train wreck. We'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that during the discussion. I don't want to spoil it.
I did want to add just one thing to that. I think I had that at a C. And that is to say, I kind of agree. Like, if you split the movie in half, the first half of the movie was almost an A for me. It was somewhere between B and
honestly,
A.
I would do
the second
2/3.
half is the second part, last third quarter of the movie is what really brought it down to a lower rating.
Yeah, and we'll get into it. But I think you and I are on the same page there. Iron Man, nothing to say here. Just the movie that started it all. Great movie, beginning to end. Forgettable villain, but it first movie in the series. What else can you say? Solid 9. Solid
somewhere.
Yeah, solid. I would say a 9 at the very least out of 10. Same thing with the Avengers. Just something we'd never seen before. An amazing culmination of the entirety of Phase 1, putting all these characters together. Every character has their moment to shine. They all have their things to do, and it works. Great movie.
Yeah, and I do want to say on Iron Man, that villain, if you rewind back in time and you haven't seen any other movie on this screen, at the time, I thought the villain was great. Now, he's not, Ultron or Thanos or...
Yeah. That's what I mean, like within the context of the MCU, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I feel like one thing the MCU did really good throughout this entire timeline is the threat level. Like, so in Iron Man at the time, he was a huge threat. But then if you go a few movies later, looking backwards, he was small fries compared to the crap they were fighting within a couple of movies. So
sure, that's what I meant. Forgettable wasn't the right word. Just in the context of that movie. Obadiah Stane's terrifying. I mean, he is. Yeah. He's just, and plus Jeff Bridges is just a creepy dude. I mean, he played that part perfectly. Winter Soldier, I love this movie. Brian, I know you said it doesn't have a lot of rewatchability. I disagree. I mean, that's fine. The city chase scene with Samuel L. through with his SUV is one of the best scenes in the MCU. Just
it is.
Can we shout out Samuel L. Jackson for a minute? Like,
yeah,
he
dude.
is Nick Fury.
Just like exactly. Yeah.
Tony Stark. I mean, he's been there from the beginning. Like,
I think he's in the most MCU movies. I think
him and Stan Lee.
Yeah. Stan Lee's a freaking god. So yeah, amazing movie. The thing that really upped this one is that like Captain America is no longer just the Coca-Cola apple pie America. I'm gonna fight for everything. Like he really starts to question his government and all that stuff. And Black Widow is the perfect complement to him in this movie. She's in it just the perfect amount of time. Doesn't overshadow him or any of that stuff. Great movie. And Falcon is awesome in his introduction too. Sam is great.
And I should add to my rating, like I said, I weigh in very heavily on rewatchability, but
sure.
When I watched this movie for the first time, I watched it and I was like, every Marvel movie has to be this good.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
we talked about that because we were like, man, the last two movies were sucked. Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World. And then we saw this and we were like, they're back on track. Russo brothers are, we're not worthy, Yeah. So Guardians of the Galaxy, we've already talked about it. Great movie, ragtag, bunch of superheroes no one's ever heard of. On paper, it should not have worked. It's sort of a greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing. It just works.
Mm-hmm. And that was really Gunn's I think first big budget.
Yeah, he was still a relatively unknown director at that point. He was doing a lot of indie stuff. If you've not seen the movie Slither that he directs with Nathan Fillion, go watch that. I think it's his best movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's awesome.
It's pretty good.
Thor Ragnarok. I mean, Taika Waititi turned what I consider to be, up until that point, just the Lord of Thunder, which is funny because Jeff Goldblum calls him Lord of Thunder in that movie and actually turned him into the God of Thunder. This is the movie where we see Thor fully awakened and fully aware of his powers. And who knew Chris Hemsworth could act? I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. He's hilarious in this movie.
Yeah, he did
I am of the opinion that if that movie had failed, Thor would not have been around past this phase.
He dies in Infinity War or something, Yeah, agreed. Black Panther, I mean, nothing too important here. Just took the world by storm as a cultural phenomenon, made $1 billion, got nominated for best fucking picture at the Oscars, for crying out loud. I mean, yeah, what else can you say about this movie, and now we kind of move on to the television shows. And I talked about this this weekend with my buddy Jeremy Branch, who is running the Movies Are Terrible YouTube channel. And if you've not checked that out, definitely go to his channel on YouTube. He's awesome. We talked about how I was shocked that Marvel decided to release debut our new big bad. We've all seen Loki. Okay, want to make sure. That the new big bad Kang was debuted in a television show and not in a movie theater. That to me says they're serious about these shows. They're no longer optional. They're 100% required viewing. And I rate all of these shows in the A tier because they're all very good. We talked about it earlier, 3 shows in a row. They're all good for different reasons. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is actually the most sort of consistent of all of them. Doesn't have a lot of highs, but doesn't have a lot of lows. It's just kind of solid throughout. Loki and WandaVision go up and down, just because of the emotion factor, but all very, very well done.
Yeah, I'd say Loki and WandaVision both had I think 1 week episode each.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Falcon didn't really have a week episode.
Right. Yeah. Different types of shows, of course.
That's like touching back on what Brian said about Guardians of the Galaxy. He wishes the movie was like an hour longer. You know what I mean? And that's what this is. Reasons to do this, because you can't put every story into 2 hour, 3 hour one movie.
Right. None of these would have worked as movies. Yeah. Loki might have worked as like a 2.5 hour movie, maybe.
I don't think it would.
But WandaVision definitely would not,
because Loki doesn't have the fan base of the other superheroes. You know what I mean? Like a Thor and Iron Man.
Oh yeah, I'm saying it. It definitely works better as a show.
Pulled in the numbers like as a movie.
Sure.
You know, like they could have came out with a movie and it'd been good, but I don't think it would have pulled in the ratings that they would want. You know, because Loki, we all love Loki. We would have went and seen it, but I don't think his fan base is that huge.
Yeah, I meant more for like the story they were trying to tell. They could have condensed it in 2.5 hours. You know.
Yeah,
but yeah, I hear you. All really good shows. So I touched on this earlier. My S tier is the films that I feel like are just a little bit better than the others. Captain America: Civil War, in my, not so humble opinion, is the best movie in the MCU. And it's because Iron Man actually becomes a quasi villain in the last third of that movie. He's the hero we've been following this entire time. And it's not about saving the world. It's not about, bringing people back from a snap. Spoiler alert. By the way, they win. It's not about that. It's a small story. It's a grudge between him and Captain America in the last 30 minutes of this movie. And it just works. The character, the interaction between these two guys is just so good in this movie.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just better than the others. I mean, it just is.
It is. And I do want to say, like, because this is the one with Baron Zemo, right? Civil War.
That's the only nitpick I have with that movie is that the villain is kind of weak in that movie. And I love Zemo, but the villain's motivation is kind of weak. But that's not the point. That's the point is he's putting them against each other. The Civil War is the villain of the movie.
Yeah. And I think that actually it's funny because Zemo is not someone I would have ever considered any type of, he's never someone I would have considered a great villain, like from the comic books. But then whenever, in Civil War, I feel like he really did well. He was the right villain to kind of stage this. And then in Falcon and Winter Soldier, he's my favorite character.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hands down. Every show, like trying to figure out who it is in WandaVision, probably, Agatha, maybe.
Yeah.
But
she's my favorite character in that show.
We don't even need to talk about Loki. We all know, Mobius is everyone's favorite character, or Alligator Loki, depending on,
Alligator Loki
what day of the week it is.
Superior Loki.
So,
hey.
So anyway, Captain America: Civil War, best movie in the MCU for me. And then you have Infinity War and Endgame. I mean, what else do we need to say about those films? Just amazing spectacle. Just the culmination of the entire, phase 1, 2, and 3 of these films. And the Russo brothers they know their lane. They don't, divulge too much. They don't try stuff like Joss Whedon kept wanting to do his own personal thing. The Russo brothers know the mission. They know the story. They put it together. And all 3 of these movies have a huge amount of characters in them. And all of them have their time to shine in every one of these movies. Thor's arrival in Wakanda is my favorite scene in the entire MCU. When really good. When the music picks up and he grabs Stormbreaker and then you got Rocket on his shoulder and stuff, just such a cool visual.
I get chills.
I do. To this day, I get chills, dude. Still, I watch that scene like once a week to get pumped, because it's just such a great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. My only real disappointment with the later Avengers films is maybe we'll get Thanos back, but I'm still kind of upset that they kill him, that he's gone. I still feel like since they decided to kind of shoehorn Captain Marvel in towards the end of this line of things, and they made her so strong.
By the time she shows up, he can't do anything.
Yeah, they've already kind of baselined Thanos against everyone else, so they couldn't suddenly boost his power. And
he still takes her though. I mean, he does with the stones, but still,
Yeah, I'm still always going to complain. Like, he doesn't have his energy blast from the comics. You're
just gonna have to get over that, man. Like,
yeah, they kind of hint at it.
Let's not even talk about the Mandarin. Okay, we won't even go into that. God. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's coming eventually, but yeah, wait until my Iron Man 3 rewatch. I'm gonna fucking roast that movie, dude.
But Thanos was really good though. I mean, he's ultimately, I think, among my favorite villains from any franchise. Josh Brolin was awesome and amazing as him, and
he was
I feel
also
like
amazing in Deadpool.
Yeah, and I feel like with Thanos, I would not complain about his missing powers and abilities if they had not pushed Captain Marvel in at the end of things. The power level just didn't feel right once they brought her in.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear that the whole point of Thanos in the MCU was to like get the stones. Without the stones, he's a warlord. He takes over, planets and stuff. But with the stones, he's this ungodly being, and they couldn't keep him at that level for long. So they had to figure something out, and it took 3 phases for him to get there. And when it did, it worked. I can't believe they actually pulled off the snap, and it worked the way that it did. Like it was, it worked.
Dude, I was crushed. Like, because I didn't know anything about the comics. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
Like,
I'm like, why did Bucky's gun stay, but his metal arm didn't? Like, what is this? Anyway,
get me on Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh God, that dude. That one. I was like, those damn onions.
Yeah, my heart broke in half.
It's his spider sense that's doing that, right? He's like, I don't feel so good, and the only reason he's able to kind of realize it is because his spidey sense is alerting him to it, and it's like, oh fuck, like he sees it coming. But anyway, we gotta wrap this up, guys. This was great. I love making this video. We need to do more of these.
Yeah, this was fun for sure.
Yeah, I would like to actually do a tier list of the villains from the MCU.
We can absolutely do that too. Cool. Yeah, we can do that. But we'll do a video for Loki season 1. We'll do a recap of that. Jeff, you're gonna watch Black Widow soon. When you do, we'll do a discussion on that. We could even do we could watch it together if you want to do a reaction and see kind of Jeff's reactions to it, because we've all seen it. However you want to do that.
I don't know that I want to watch it again.
Really? Okay, that's fine. We'll do a discussion on it. But we are going to do some rewatches for all the movies, and we're going to do them in release order. And every week we'll do a 20-30 minute video on each movie, and we'll probably rate them from 0 to 10 as well.
We'll set up some categories to rate them in. I think would be cool. Yeah,
for sure. But thanks for joining us, guys. Like I said, look forward to some new MCU videos coming out soon. As always, Fanout. What you got, Ryan?
I was gonna say you should actually post the tier thing in the video description, and you guys that are watching,
for sure,
go fill this out, send it back to us.
Yeah, I will.
Vote on who had it right and who had it wrong.
Yeah, definitely comment below. Let us know how wrong Jeff and Brian are, and myself, of course, because it's all film is subjective, as the great John Campea says. And anyway, take 2.
We actually had a lot of them the same.
Yeah. You and I were really close. Brian was just weird. But anyway, he's like A. All right, are we really doing fan out this time?
All right, fan out.
All right, guys.
Fan out.
Catch you later.
Later.